Saladin here from Love Life Yarn, and today we're going to be making this Feather Stitch Beanie. You can see here it's got great texture, easy half double crochet ribbed brim, which we work back and forth in rows, and then we work the feather stitch in the round, turning at the end of each round. And you top it off with a nice pom. I made this one for my youngest son's teacher, who is a big UT Vols fan, and so it is orange and white. You can use any color you like. The color I'm going to use in the tutorial I'm making another one is a nice teal color, so it's great with a worsted weight yarn. So, are you ready? Let's get started. Materials you'll need for this project include one skein of worsted weight yarn. This is Lion Brand Heartland, a size I and a J hook, a stitch marker to mark your first stitch, scissors, and a yarn needle. And also you can do a faux fur pom. To begin, we're going to use our smaller hook, and we're going to chain 12 for our ribbed section for the ribbing. So go ahead and chain 12. I've already done this. And we're going to half double crochet, so yarn over. In the third chain from the hook, insert and draw up a loop, yarn over, and draw through all three. We're going to work this in each chain, just working a half double crochet all the way down. The chain 2 at the beginning does not count as a stitch, so you should end up with 10 half double crochet for our brim. All right, we've turned, and now we're going to work this next row from row 2 to row 60. So chain 2 does not count as a stitch, so don't count these. Yarn over, and now normally with a half double you'll go right in this space. It's a regular half double crochet. What we're going to do is work in the back loop only. So don't work here, turn it towards you, split the V, working in just that back loop, and work a regular half double crochet. And we'll continue this all the way down till we have 10 stitches. And we're going to work back and forth in rows this way from row 2 all the way until row 60. And this is going to create that ribbing. You can see how this right here is already kind of sticking out like a ribbing. So when we flip back and forth, it alternates what side the ribbing is on and kind of mimics the look of a knit ribbing. So go ahead and work on 10 stitches for the size that we're making. The 20-inch circumference would be from row 2 to row 60 with the smaller hook. Make sure you're using your smaller hook, and then turn and repeat. You can see the texture there, and that's what's going to give us our ribbing. Right here was my 60 rows of ribbing. You can see them here, and we're going to bring the two together and work. We're going to work this seam. So chain 1, we're going to slip stitch now, but I found that chain 1 makes it a lot neater. And use the 2 outside edges, okay, the loop closest to you in the front and the loop farthest from you in the back, and slip. And the next one, one closest to you, one farthest from you. And this gives a nice ribbing that you can't tell where the seam is. This is the best way I've found to close crochet ribbing. So you just work your way all the way down those 10 stitches. And then it should match pretty seamlessly with the rest of the ribbing. Okay, down here in the last stitch, it may look a little bit different. Sometimes you have to kind of find that last one. And there we go. You can see that it does look a lot like the other ribbing. So it kind of hides in there, which is great. That's what we want. We don't want anyone to see a big seam, a noticeable seam. So slip stitching in those 2 loops really helps. All right, at this point, we're going to change to our larger hook. So exchange your I for a J hook. And then we're going to chain 2. So chain 2, and then half double crochet right here, right beside where we joined. Chain 1, and then skip this next row and to half double crochet in the row beside. So it should look about the same place on the ribbing, like it was a little bit to the left of the actual part that stuck out. and then you'll do that again in every one. So you're just going every other row of what we worked into the side of it, and that'll set us up for our feather stitch. So just chain 1 and work right in about the same place in the ribbing. Here I am at the end, and I'm going to join with a slip stitch to this very first half double crochet that we made. And that will complete our round. And we have, of course, these big holes in here. We're going to work the feather stitch in them. So chain 1 for a feather stitch, yarn over, insert into the chain space, draw up a loop, yarn over, insert into the row we skipped, draw up a loop, yarn over, insert into the next chain space. And now you're going to draw through all of those. And then chain 1. Let's try it again. Yarn over, insert into the same chain space and draw up a loop, yarn over, insert into the skipped row and draw up a loop, yarn over, insert into the next chain space, draw up a loop, and then yarn over and draw through all the loops, all 7 loops on your hook, and chain 1 to close it. So I think when I do it, I go 1 and 2 and 3 and then I draw through them all. That's just how that's the cadence that worked for me, was to go 1 and 2 and 3 and then draw through. So you just repeat that all the way around. When you get here to the end of your round, find that very first feather stitch, and you're going to slip stitch to close the round. And now we're going to turn. So I actually flip the whole thing. And now I know I'm looking at the wrong side because I have this tail right here. So see the tail right here? That's, we know this is the inside side. So chain 1 again, yarn over, insert into this first chain space and draw up a loop, yarn over, insert into the chain space in the row below and draw up a loop, yarn over, insert into the next chain space, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through them all, and chain 1. And so definitely I found it very helpful to mark my first stitch so that I always knew when I came back around. So yarn over, insert, draw up a loop, yarn over, insert, draw up a loop, yarn over, insert in the next chain space, draw up a loop, yarn over, and pull through all. Yarn over, chain 1. So you just work that way. So you have 1 and 2 and 3 and just keep going all the way down. And then, of course, when you get here, you'll join with a slip stitch and we'll turn. And that's going to be for rows 2 through 12. So we'll just repeat the feather stitch, yarn over, draw up loop, yarn over, insert, draw up a loop, yarn over, insert the next chain space, draw up a loop, yarn over, and draw through 7 loops in the hook, and then chain 1 to close. So all the way through row 12. Here I have worked all of my rows through row 12, and you can see the repeating pattern here. And this is our seam. This is what I love. The seam is, with the chain 1, is pretty much invisible. It's very small. And so now we're going to decrease. So chain 1, and we're going to work a feather stitch decrease. So like normal, go ahead and yarn over it, insert in the first and the second space we normally were inserting, yarn over, and again, this is different here. Go ahead and yarn over again, insert in that bottom chain space and drop loop, yarn over, insert into the next chain space. And there should be 11 loops in your hook. So draw through all of those, and that actually gives it a similar look for us to decrease. Chain 1 again, and then we will just do a regular feather stitch in 3, and you just repeat that. The decrease, feather stitch 3, decrease, feather stitch 3, and you should have 24, don't forget to mark your first one, 24 feather stitches when you're done. So we're taking it from 30 down to 24, and then for round 2, you're just going to turn and feather stitch evenly in each one around. All right, for round 3, chain 1, and you're going to work 2 regular feather stitches. So, and you just work like normal over these decreases, like where we decreased here. You just work in the next chain space, just like a normal one. So feather stitch 1, and of course chain 1. And I'm going to go ahead and mark mine. I said I found it super helpful. I've made a few of these now, and marking it definitely helps. And then a regular feather stitch again. So feather stitch 2, and then we're going to decrease. So remember how to do this. You yarn over, insert, drop a loop, yarn over, insert the row below. Oh, my yarn is not cooperating. Gotta love it when that happens. And then the row below, the next chain spaces here. And then finally in the third chain space, 11 loops in the hook and draw through. And just repeat that. 2 feather stitches and a decrease all the way around, and you will have 18 feather stitches at the end of round 3. And for round 4, we do the same thing we did before. We just work even 1 feather stitch in each of those 18 feather stitches. You can see how it's decreasing the top. All right, round 5, we're going to decrease again. So we're going to work 1 regular feather stitch, and then decrease. So we're working 1 regular feather stitch, 1 decrease all the way around, and that's going to give us 12 stitches at the end of our round. So the same way we've decreased before. Just 1 feather stitch, decrease all the way around. You'll end up with 12 stitches. And now for round 6, you can definitely see how we're shaping the top here. We're just going to feather stitch 2 together or decrease. Okay, after we chain 1, we're just going to decrease all the way around. So it takes our 12 stitches down to 6. And this is going to be the last round. So just go ahead, work this decrease all the way around, and it brings it closed. We only have 6 feather stitches. And then we'll come back and we'll close the top. So just repeat this around. All right, now I have done that and I have 6 stitches left. I'm going to need my yarn needle. See how it's closing here? Grab this. I'm also going to cut my yarn, leave you a decent sized tail. So I'm going to clip this over here. Bring it into the camera view. Sometimes it's hard to remember that you're doing everything on camera. All right, grab your end. Go ahead and just pull it through. You don't have to fasten off. I don't like a knot at the top because we're going to just work this through anyway. It's not going to come unraveled. So just pull it through and then go ahead and thread your yarn needle. And now we're going to work around. So I'm going to go back in the opposite direction and I'm just going to kind of work my yarn, like weave it through, like back and forth between these stitches. Or even the feather stitch has, then we also have the chain 1. So I'm working kind of around all of that, as you can see. It doesn't have to be perfect. One of them I just did around the feather stitch and left the chain 1 alone. It didn't matter. It closed it up nicely either way. So I'm just going through, just going in and out. I usually go around at least once or once and a half and then pull tightly. You can see how it closes that, but it does leave us some gaps where the feather stitch just has a normal open look to it, and it may not matter to you. You can kind of pull it through. Oops, sorry, getting off camera again. Kind of close these holes right here. You can weave your ends in a little more. Like if you want to come down and actually grab some of these stitches in the feather stitch itself, you could do that. It doesn't have to be perfect, especially if you're putting a pom-pom on. It does not have to be perfect. So just kind of go through some of these stitches. And you can do this as much as you want. I'm trying to show it. I'm sorry, it's a little hard with the space that I have and when my camera is set up. So I'll come across here and pull it closed. And you can just see how it's really closing. So when you feel comfortable with it, put the yarn needle through the middle and weave the end inside. Okay, I would take that through to the inside when I'm done, and I'm going to weave it in. And then the other one, I'll weave in the other end at the inside as well. You can sew on a pom-pom. This one has an elastic loop, so I'm planning on putting a button inside. And that's it. You are done.